Oh boy, another list of things for the internet. Oh, and it's about cranky game characters in a video, huh? Real original games radar. See, crankiness is way overrated, and it has invaded our society and our entire culture. That includes video games. This list will bring up the most cranky assholes in video game history, starting with number 7.
Squall definitely uses his crankiness as a defense mechanism against the entire world. He was abandoned as a kid, and he ended up getting shoved into a boarding school and forgetting that he ever had any friends or family or anyone who cared about him. So he just kind of blocks himself off and doesn't want to engage with anyone. And to push them away, he's super cranky and bitchy and just doesn't talk, doesn't give anyone the time of day.
I feel like this guy is unlovable. No one who's ever played Final Fantasy VIII has been like, yeah, Squall's my dude.
Yeah, and he's like the main character too, so like why would you want this kind of like Debbie Downer dude to be your main guy?
Completely apathetic 100% of the time. He doesn't care, he doesn't make a big deal out of stuff, he's just kind of like, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do this and whatever.
His favorite reaction to anything anybody says is ... whatever. It's like, oh, cool man, you cool Squall with all your belts. But he, you know, initially he's just a little bit mopey, but he eventually becomes this like super defensive, cranky jerk.
But deep down, he's just this insecure little kid. And him getting away from being a cranky little shit is supposed to be part of his character development that gets you to like him. Supposed to be.
Squall Leonhart might be the pissiest character in all of Final Fantasy history. Like, he can't find anything that makes him happy. In fact, all he does is just complain. I think it's also funny that Squall, through ellipses, can complain, like, just silence. Like, he's complaining just by saying nothing.
Oh, Chris, you little square man, you.
You almost kind of feel bad for Chris because he's clearly insecure about himself, which is why he is so cranky toward Thomas. Like, he focuses entirely on how Thomas can do things better than he can and how, oh, screw Thomas, he thinks he's so great. But it's all just inside, and it's all this insecurity that he has built up about the fact that he's shorter and can't jump as far.
Chris is a character that is just so envious of everybody else that he can't help but to respond to every single action and thing that you say with some sort of whiny, defensive, why can't I be as good as him?
So I love how the narration says that Chris is always saying he doesn't need anyone, but in the game, in reality, he needs to jump on top of other people to reach higher platforms.
Yeah, he kind of needs Thomas because Thomas is the taller one, and he's just this short, you know, square, stubby little dude. He's like the fat guy that has like an emotional issues with himself.
He's trying to compensate.
Right.
Thomas is just happy to find anybody after being alone for so long, but Chris, the second he sees Thomas, is like, all right, another square, thinks he's so hot to trot just because he can hop around. All right, maybe he can't hop as much as me, but who cares? This is hardly even worth it. Chris just hates on everything, but you wouldn't even know he was a little square of hate if not for the friendly British narrator telling you all about it.
Great. Another chance for Thomas to jump slightly higher than Chris. How fortunate.
Probably a lot of you remember Falco's personality from Star Fox 64. Most of his recorded clips were just like sarcastic asides of just like, oh, I'm so glad you saved me, Star Fox, or hey, watch out for your own thing, or also just giving Slippy crap all the time. Admittedly, Slippy is kind of lame, so, you know, Falco's not wrong all the time just because he's cranky.
He's kind of that guy where he's just like, he's a dick, sort of, but at the same time, he kind of wants to prove that he can hold his own. But then in the middle of doing that, he gets into trouble and then he needs you to save his ass. And then he gets sarcastic about that. He's that dude.
How do I compliment him on something he did well? Hey Falco, you did a great job. To which he'll respond like, Oh, thanks, man. Like, in the most sarcastic manner possible.
He can be a team player, but it doesn't take much for his crankiness to show through. He'll say terrible things to the enemy, which you kind of get, but then he'll start being a shithead to his friends. He'll start saying things like, oh, well, Fox came to save me. How great.
They're partners.
Well, they're kind of like rivals too, right? Because Falco thinks he's the shit, but Fox is also kind of the shit as well. So he's kind of jealous because Fox is the leader.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like I'd be more grateful if someone saved my life by shooting an enemy jet off my 6.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Assassin's Creed is all about exploring history, and the game actually does a pretty good job of explaining history to you. But to make it a little more interesting than just reading a book, you have Shaun Hastings, the uber history expert there, to explain everything through his grumpy, cranky eye.
He's the know-it-all, guy, like the know-it-all IT guy that comes over and fixes your computer whenever something goes wrong. He just presses 3 buttons and he's like, oh, it was that simple. That's who Shaun is. He's that guy.
Also, what's interesting is that Shaun Hastings is played by an actor who wrote the book that the Jim Carrey film Yes Man was based on. A book that is about hyper-positivity, was written by a guy who plays one of the most negative characters in video games.
Look, the dude's smart. He's done some amazing research for the Animus Project, and you learn all sorts of things through him. But the second you go up to him just to maybe say hello, he immediately dives into this long-winded monologue about how you should probably just go jump off a cliff.
I actually kind of love Shaun Hastings. Like, took a while to get there because he is definitely a shithead. When you first meet him, he's really impatient and really snarky and really mean to Desmond and Rebecca and Lucy and really just everybody. But over the course of the games, you start to figure out, actually, he's a super nice guy who will listen to your problems and likes to think really critically about the situation they're in and is super smart and can tell you all kinds of cool stuff about history with just that little bit of snark to it at the end. So really, he's not cranky because he's a bad person. He's cranky because he thinks we can do something better and we're just not there yet. But he is a total shithead.
Look, I get Larry is stuck in a really shitty situation. Zombie apocalypse probably isn't a thing anybody would handle particularly well, but he really just needs to chill the hell out. You cannot say a single thing to him without somehow pissing him off.
You go out of your way to try to do things right and try to make him happy and try to make his daughter happy, but nothing pleases this guy. You bring him medicine to save him from dying in a heap in a convenience store, and in return he punches you in the face and leaves you to die. Like, fuck you, Larry, what's your problem?
It's like anything that's threatening him or his daughter, he's just ready to boot it right out the door. Like, kill it, make sure that it's not gonna come back and bite anybody.
Nobody else seems to even really like Larry either. Even his daughter isn't a big fan. So if you didn't try to save Larry in the second episode of the game, I don't blame you. I hate Francis. I hate
Puppies.
I hate how everybody talks about it.
Kittens.
I hate how there's t-shirts about
Taco Bell.
I hate having to see him on lists like this one. I hate Francis.
So Francis from Left 4 Dead is just this guy, he just hates everything. Like, you start walking upstairs, he hates those stairs. He sees a helicopter, he hates helicopters. Well, it's probably because those helicopters are just like crashing all the time.
Francis. This is the kind of guy who owns his crankiness and gives exactly 0 shits. Like, everyone else on this list feels like they're kind of justified in treating everyone else like crap. Francis just doesn't care if he's right or wrong. He's gonna act exactly the way he wants to act, and you can go screw yourself.
Cranky Kong!
I mean, sure, there's the fact that Cranky is the guy's name, but you know, he's the typical grumpy old man where everything you know and love, well, guess what, idiot kid? It was better 80 years ago.
He was supposedly the first Donkey Kong.
Either a grandfather or father. It's kind of unclear.
So he has some experience, and he likes to like convey that experience to Donkey Kong, the new Donkey Kong, I guess, and Diddy Kong all the time by saying, you know, there's too many graphics going on here, and like back in my day, games used to be hard and all that.
Yes, Grandpa.
The character who first appeared in 1994 was always complaining about things, just saying that like games were better in my day. Look at my beard swinging in this animation, like that's too much. Newfangled technology is not important. How back in his day they had 3 shades of gray, they were happy to even have color. And about how all this new technology is not as interesting, and how he was the star of the original Donkey Kong, and that was a way better game than Donkey Kong Country. He's even telling players to turn off their systems because he would rather go to sleep than suffer through this game. So are you cranky that we left off your favorite Cranky character? Do you think you could have written a better article in your sleep? Well, why don't you tell us about it in the comments down around that area, and we'll read them. I'm sure they'll be really great. Also, be sure to check out the other YouTube videos that we've done. We've done a lot of great stuff at Games Radar. Until next time, bye.